Okay, so last time we covered, I think, until comparing fractions. So we'll just do a quick recap of this before we start on the new topic for today. So remember, we have fractions that are a numerator and denominator. So we have numerator on top, denominator on bottom, and then here's another example, right? So we want to see how can we determine if this one is bigger or if this one is bigger, right? We cannot just compare the two fractions because they have different compositions, right? So we want to see is 3 over 4 3/4 bigger, or is 2 over 3 or 2/3 the larger fraction? So the main way that we do this is through common denominators. And what's good about this method, what is good about finding the common denominator, is that we use the LCM. So does anyone remember what LCM stands for? Anyone? What is LCM? Correct. So LCM is the least common multiple. So what a common denominator means is that the denominator of the two fractions we're comparing are the exact same. And we must have the same denominator on both fractions if we want to compare them. So how do we do this? We find the LCM of these two numbers. So find the LCM of 4 and 3. And that will give us our common denominator. So let's see this example more in depth. So we have 2 over 3 and 3 over 4. So let's start by listing out the multiples of 3. So can someone start the list? So the first multiple, second multiple, third multiple, and so on. Do we all do we all remember what are multiples? Remember, multiples are a number multiplied by each consecutive integer. So, for example, 3 times 1 is the first multiple, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and so on. So, can someone list out the multiples of 3? Correct. 9. Okay, so this is good. Okay, we have 6 multiples of 3. Now let's find the multiples of 4. So we start off with 4 and then okay. Okay, that's good. So now we have the first 6 multiples of 3 and 4. So we want to find the LCM, which is what? 12, right? we see 12 on both lists of multiples. So 12 is the least common multiple, right? So has everyone has understood that so far? Finding the LCM, the common denominator? Everyone is understanding? Good. So now, so our LCM is 12, right? So we want the denominator for the first fraction and the denominator of the second fraction to both be 12. So if we take 2 over 3, what number do we have to multiply the denominator by to get 12? So what number do we need to multiply to get 12? Correct. So it's 4. So we'll do 3 times 4. So similarly, if we're multiplying the denominator by 4, we have to multiply the numerator by 4 as well. And can anyone tell me why? Why do we have to multiply both the top and bottom by 4? So it's because we want an equivalent fraction, right? We want our original fraction, so 2 over 3, and we want an equivalent fraction. So we have to multiply both the top and bottom by 4. So if we do that, our new fraction is what? 8 over 12, correct? So now we'll do the same thing for 3 by 4. So what do we have to multiply the denominator by to get 12? 3, right? And we'll multiply the top as well by 3. So now our equivalent fraction, remember, equivalent fraction is 9 over 12. So these are our equivalent fractions now with the common denominator. So is everyone understanding that so far? So is everyone understanding so far, yes or no? Good. So now we can compare directly. So we have 8 over 12 and 9 over 12. So which one is bigger? 9 by 12, correct. So 9 by 12 is bigger, so that means 3 by 4 is the larger fraction. So between 2/3 and 3/4, 3/4 is larger, right? Okay, good job. So that's how we compare fractions. So we'll do this one quickly. So we have 4 over 6 and 5 over 7. So let's start with the multiples of 7. 7, right? Okay, good. So now multiples of 6. Okay, good. So now we found our LCM, least common multiple, which is 42, right? So now we'll do the same thing. So we have 4 by 6. So we multiply the denominator by 7, right, to get to 42. And we'll multiply the top by the same. So our new fraction is 28 over 42. And now 5 by 7, we multiply the denominator by what? 6, right? And we multiply the top as well by 6. And our new fraction is 30 by 42. So now which one is bigger? So that means that 5 by 7 originally is the bigger fraction. Okay, good. So now we can move on to the new topic for today, which is decimals. So have you all heard of decimals before? So have you all worked with decimals before? Have you discussed decimals in class? Anyone? Anyone? Can anyone tell me? Okay, so we'll start with decimals today. Um, Maybe you have heard of them before, maybe you have not. But decimals are just another way to write parts of a whole. Remember, parts of a whole are what? Fractions, right? So essentially, decimals are another way to fractions. Does this make sense? So remember, parts of a whole are what fractions are. So fractions are part over a whole. So numerator is a part and the denominator is the whole. So the numbers after the decimal, so the decimal is the dot, the numbers after the decimal, so these numbers, show how much of a part we have. So we have 4 wholes and we have this many parts, right? So the numbers that come after the decimal are the parts of a whole that we have. So here it's important to understand that trailing zeros, so trailing zeros are, for example, the zeros that come after all the numbers here. The trailing zeros do not affect the value of the decimal, right? So no matter how many decimals you have, the decimal value will stay the same. So for example, 0.5, 0.50, 0.500, 0.50000 are all the same value, right? Because trailing zeros, so zeros that come after, they do not affect the decimal at all. So all these values are the exact same. However, preceding zeros, so preceding zeros do affect the decimal. So for example, 0.5 and 0.05 are not the same. So this is something very important to understand first before we continue with decimals. So does everyone understand that so far? Yes, okay, good. So now let's see how we describe the decimal. So we have these different parts of a decimal. So we have the numbers that come before the decimal, and we have numbers that come after the decimal, right? So just like your standard numbers, so 4, 15, 17, 100, the first digit here is called the ones place. So the ones place, right? Now, when we go after the decimal, it gets a little bit more complicated. So the first number after the decimal is called the tenth place. So tenths. The second place after the decimal is the hundredth place. The third the third value after the decimal is a thousandths place. And then the fourth one would be the 10,000ths, for example. The fifth one would be the 100,000ths, and so on, right? So we have the ones place, which is right before the decimal. Then after the decimal, the first value we have is the tenths. The second value we have is the hundredths, and the third value we have is the thousandths. So does that make sense for everyone? Does everyone understand how we describe the decimal? So the different names for each value in the decimal. So does everyone understand? Anyone can tell me? So can anyone tell me if they understand, if you all understand this concept describing the decimal? So do you want me to explain it once more? Sure, okay. I'll explain it one more time. Okay, so this is how we describe the decimal. So each value in the decimal has a specific name. So the number that comes right before the decimal, remember before, is called the ones place. Now, when we get past the decimal, so once we go after the decimal, the first number is called the tenths, the tenth place. The second number is called the hundredths place. And the third number is called the thousandths place. and then it goes so on. So the fourth number is called the 10,000s, for example. So now does everyone understand how we describe decimals? Okay, okay, good. So now we'll continue. So now this is the important part. How can we go from a fraction, remember fraction is numerator over denominator, and how can we turn it into a decimal? So how can we go from a fraction to a decimal? So essentially, the way that we do this transformation is we divide the numerator by the denominator. So what does this mean? So let's say we have one fraction, which is 7 over 11. This is the same as saying 7 divided by 11. So the line you see between the fractions, so the line you see between the numerator and the denominator, this is simply a division symbol. So this line directly corresponds or equals division. So whenever you see a fraction, what it actually means is division. So fractions equal division. Does that make sense? So does everyone understand this? Fractions equal division. Good. So now let's see exactly here. So 3 by 4 is the same thing as 3 divided by 4. And 3 divided by 4 is equal to what? 0.75. Does that make sense to everyone? So does everybody understand why does 3 by 4 equal 0.75? Does everyone understand how we make that division? So what I'm asking is, how does 3 divided by 4 equal 0.75? So does everyone understand this concept, or do we have to review as well? So everyone understands how we divide 3 by 4 or no? Yes. Okay. Good. So that makes it easy. Then we can just move on to the next topic. So we learned how to go from fraction to decimal, right? But now let's see how to go from decimal to fraction. So let's take this first example here. We have 0.6. Remember, what do we call the first number after the decimal. So what is a name that we give to this value? Tenths, right? I heard someone say it. So it's called the tenth place, right? So what we can call this decimal, what we call it is 6/10 because we have 6/10, right? So the conversion here from the decimal to fraction is very simple. Tenths is representing the number 10. So if we have 6/10, that simply means 6 over 10. So 6 by 10 equals 6/10. Does that make sense to everybody? So does everyone understand this? Good. Okay. And remember from the couple classes ago, we discussed simplifying fractions. So simply 6/10 can be written as 3/5. So 3 by 5 is the equivalent fraction. Right. Okay. So let's try this one. So we want to go from 5/10 to a decimal. So how do we do this? Can anyone tell me? So remember, the line here, the line here, okay, 0.5 is correct, yes, but how do we get there, right? So the line here means division, right? So we simply want to do 5 divided by 10, and then correct, this gives us 0.5. So 5 by 10 equals 0.5. Good. Now let's try the other way around. Let's go from a decimal to a fraction. So we want to go from 0.25 to a fraction. So now we have what is a little bit different. Remember, the first example we saw was 0.6. But now here we have two values after the decimal. So does anyone remember what the second value is called? Hundreds, correct. So the second value after the decimal is called the hundredths. So what does this mean? It means we have 25 hundredths. And you can see the number hundreds. So this means we have 25 over 100. So this is 25 hundredths, right? So how can we how can we simplify how can we simplify this fraction, which is 25 by 100? Can anyone tell me? So I think I heard it from someone. We can start by dividing by 5. So we'll start dividing the numerator by 5 and the denominator by 5. So this gives us 5 by 20. And now we can divide it by 5 again, and we get 1 over 4. So our final answer is 0.25 equals 1 by 4. So does everyone understand that so far? Okay, good. So now the last topic that we will learn for today is adding and subtracting decimals. So adding together decimals and subtracting decimals. So the most important thing to know before you start is that you have to line up the decimal points before calculating. So let me show you an example to show you what lining up means. So we want to add 12.45 and we want to add 3.70. So we'll do our common addition like this. Now you'll see that our decimals are correctly lined up. So we don't want to add, for example, like this. So this would be wrong, right? Because our decimals are not lined up. So we want them to be in the same line before we add the two numbers. So from here we can go as usual. So we can add the first spot of numbers. We have 5 plus 0 is 5. Then we have 4 plus 7 is what? 11. We carry the 1. Then we have the decimal. And then 2 plus 3 is what? 5. And then 6. And then lastly, 1, we bring it down. So our final answer is 12.45 plus 3.7 equals 16.15. So, does everyone understand so far? Okay, good. So that will be it for today's class. So today we covered fractions and decimals. So we have completed both of these topics. So tomorrow in the next class, we will start with the more advanced topic, which is Introduction to Algebra. So that's what we will cover in the next class. So hopefully you all understood today, but I'll show the class video as usual on YouTube. So if you have any doubts, you can watch that video one more time, and then see any confusion that you might have. Okay, so we're done for today. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll see you in the next class.